The mysterious end of Gareth Williams. Gareth Williams was a 31-year-old Welsh mathematician and a senior analyst at Government Communications Headquarters and at MI6 in London. These agencies are roughly the equivalent of the NSA and the CIA, respectively. Gareth was known for his exceptional skills in code breaking and cybersecurity, participating in conferences like Black Hat briefings and DEF CON. Williams' body was found on August 23, 2010, in his Pimlico, London apartment, a week after he had last been seen alive. He was reported missing by his family and his employers at GCHQ, but MI6 did not raise the alarm immediately. Williams was found in a red North Face duffel bag, padlocked from the outside, placed in the bathtub of his apartment. His decomposing body complicated the determination of the exact cause of death, leading to numerous speculations and extensive investigations. The Metropolitan Police and a subsequent inquest, led by coroner Fiona Wilcox, ruled that the circumstances were suspicious and likely involved a third party. Despite this, the Metropolitan Police later concluded that Williams had most probably locked himself in the bag accidentally. This conclusion was controversial, given the testimony of experts who failed to replicate locking themselves inside a similar bag, despite numerous attempts. The bag's state and the position of Williams' body indicated he was likely alive when placed in the bag. Experts stated it was improbable that he could have locked himself in the bag without assistance. Moreover, the absence of defensive wounds or signs of struggle further complicated the accidental death theory. The inquest highlighted several inconsistencies suggesting another person's involvement. Some more lurid media reports focused on Williams' visits to illicit websites and the presence of women's clothing in his flat. The coroner dismissed these as unrelated to his passing, suggesting media manipulation to divert from more plausible explanations involving his professional life. No fingerprints or DNA traces were found on the bag or padlock, and the flat appeared to have been cleaned of evidence. Williams' phone was found restored to factory settings, indicating possible tampering. Some speculate that Williams might have been targeted due to his work. A former KGB agent claimed that Russian intelligence might have been involved, potentially attempting to recruit Williams as a double agent or to protect their own operatives. The delayed reporting of Williams' absence by MI6, the contaminated evidence, and the restricted access to his colleagues and work materials have fueled conspiracy theories. Williams' family has strongly criticized MI6's handling of the case and the unusual delay in the reporting of his absence. Despite multiple investigations, the exact circumstances surrounding his death are unresolved. This is a suggestion by patron and Discord member Monoxide Wendigo. Lost cosmonauts. The term lost cosmonauts refers to a theory suggesting that the Soviet Union may have concealed failed missions involving cosmonauts during the early years of the space race. The conspiracy theory first gained traction in the early 1960s. Proponents argue that several cosmonauts embarked on space missions before Yuri Gagarin's historic flight in April 1961, but their missions ended in disaster. Among the alleged lost cosmonauts is Vladimir Ilyushin, a test pilot and son of a famed aircraft designer. According to some accounts, Ilyushin orbited Earth days before Gagarin, but crash-landed in China and was subsequently kept in secrecy by both governments. A significant element fueling the lost cosmonaut theory involves two Italian amateur radio operators. They claim to have intercepted distress signals and communications from several doomed Soviet missions. Notably, they reported picking up an SOS signal in 1960 from a spacecraft moving away from Earth, indicating a possible failed mission launched into deep space. The most chilling of their recordings was purportedly from a female cosmonaut who described seeing flames and experiencing extreme heat, suggesting a re-entry failure. Despite these dramatic accounts, Many experts and historians regard the Italian recordings as hoaxes or psyops, noting inconsistencies and lack of corroborating evidence. Another incident that has been linked to the lost cosmonaut theory is the 1960 Netherlands catastrophe. This was a massive explosion on a launch pad that killed numerous technicians and personnel. While officially acknowledged as a non-crewed mission, some believe there were cosmonauts involved. Another frequently cited event is the mysterious Korabel Sputnik 1 mission in 1960. Officially an unmanned test, science fiction writer Robert Heinlein reported meeting Soviet defectors who suggested it was manned. However, the spacecraft lacked a re-entry shield, making the claim that it carried cosmonauts highly dubious. The Soviet Union's notorious secrecy during the Cold War provides fertile ground for such theories. Early space missions were often conducted in secrecy, and failures were typically not disclosed to the public. For instance, Valentin Bondarenko, part of the first group of cosmonauts, died in a training accident in 1961. His death was covered up for years, adding to the narrative of concealed cosmonaut fatalities. Another example is Grigory Nelyubov, a top cosmonaut who was dismissed from the program under mysterious circumstances. Nelyubov was subsequently erased from official photographs and records. His dismissal and subsequent tragic end fueled further speculation about the fate of other cosmonauts who may have suffered similar fates. Despite the compelling stories and alleged recordings, the lost cosmonaut theory remains largely unsubstantiated. Extensive research into declassified Soviet records has not corroborated these claims. However, there remains the possibility that records were destroyed in the interest of national security. Sudoku seizures case. Sudoku, the logic-based number puzzle, has captivated millions worldwide with its simplicity and challenge. Sudoku's history is a fascinating journey across continents and centuries. Although often associated with Japan, Sudoku was first created by Howard Garnes, an American architect, in 1979 under the name Number Place. The puzzle gained its Japanese name, Sudoku, meaning single number, when introduced by the Japanese company Nikoli in 1984. Sudoku's rise to global fame began in 2004, when Wayne Gould, a retired judge, developed a computer program to generate Sudoku puzzles. Gould subsequently convinced the Times of London to publish them, leading to a massive increase in their popularity. However, in a unique medical case, Sudoku was linked to a series of seizures in a young man, raising questions and intriguing theories about the neurological effects of puzzle solving. In a case documented by medical professionals, a 25-year-old German man developed seizures specifically triggered by solving Sudoku puzzles. This individual had suffered severe hypoxia, or oxygen deprivation, after being buried in an avalanche for 15 minutes. The lack of oxygen caused significant brain damage, particularly in the right parietal cortex, which is responsible for visuospatial tasks. During rehabilitation, the man engaged in various activities without issue until he began solving Sudoku puzzles. The cognitive process of arranging numbers in a grid triggered clonic seizures in his left arm. Neurologists found this puzzling as other activities, including reading and writing, did not provoke similar responses. An MRI revealed heightened activity in the damaged brain region and loss of inhibitory neurons, causing signals to spill into adjacent areas controlling arm movement. This case was identified as a form of reflex epilepsy, where specific stimuli, in this case Sudoku, trigger seizures. Reflex epilepsy is rare, with triggers ranging from flashing lights to specific thoughts. Several mysteries and theories surround this case. One theory suggests that the visual and spatial demands of Sudoku, coupled with the man's specific brain damage, created a perfect storm for triggering seizures. Another theory posits that the method he used to solve the puzzles, arranging numbers in a 3D manner, might have exacerbated the neurological response. The precise neural Shrekinism remains unclear, prompting further research into how specific cognitive tasks can trigger seizures in individuals. The Mayerling Incident. The Mayerling incident revolves around the tragic end of Crown Prince Rudolph of Austria and his lover, Baroness Mary Vetsera. Their bodies were discovered on January 30th, 1889, in a hunting lodge in Mayerling, a small village located in Austria. The official story presented by the imperial court initially attributed Rudolph's demise to a heart condition, but it quickly became apparent that there was much more to the story. Crown Prince Rudolph, the only son of Emperor Franz Joseph and Empress Elizabeth, was the heir apparent to the Austro-Hungarian throne. His personal life, however, was fraught with difficulties. Rudolph's marriage to Princess Stephanie of Belgium was strained, and he sought solace in numerous affairs, the most notable being with the young Baroness Mary Vetsera. On January 29, 1889, Rudolph and Mary traveled to the Mayerling hunting lodge. The next morning, Rudolph's valet and his friend found the doors to Rudolph's rooms locked. Breaking in, they discovered Rudolph seated by the bed, with blood at his mouth, and Mary lifeless on the bed. The initial official narrative suggested that Rudolph had succumbed to a heart attack. However, this quickly changed when foreign correspondents uncovered details implicating Vetsera in his demise. The imperial court then suggested a pact, where Rudolph first ended Vetsera's life before his own. This explanation served to navigate the sensitive political and religious ramifications of the events, especially concerning Rudolph's burial in the imperial crypt. It's important to note that, for religious reasons, one could only be buried in the Habsburg imperial crypt if one did not end oneself. Several theories have emerged over the years to explain what truly happened at Mayerling. One of the more commonly accepted theories is that Rudolph and Mary entered a mutual ending pact due to Rudolph's despair over his personal and political situation. He had recently been pressured by his father to end his relationship with Vetsera, and was reportedly in a state of mental imbalance. Another theory suggests that Rudolph may have had syphilis, which contributed to his declining mental state and alleged self-ending tendencies. This illness might have strained his marriage and his public duties, adding to his desperation. There are also numerous conspiracy theories which have arose over the years. One posits that Rudolph was slain as part of a political plot, possibly involving Vetsera's family or other political factions. This theory is partly fueled by inconsistencies in the official accounts and the rapid closure of the investigation. Empress Zita, the last Empress of Austria, suggested that Rudolph was killed due to his refusal to participate in a political conspiracy against his father. Another dramatic account claims that Rudolph and Vetsera's demise resulted from a botched medical procedure. This theory lacks substantial evidence but persists in some discussions due to the mysterious nature of their deaths and the lack of transparency in the investigations that followed. The Mayerling incident had significant repercussions for the Austro-Hungarian Empire. With Rudolph's passing, the line of succession was disrupted, eventually leading to Archduke Franz Ferdinand becoming the heir presumptive. His assassination in 1914 was a catalyst for the outbreak of World War I, for those who know. With this character's death, the thread of prophecy is severed. Restore a saved game to restore the weave of fate, or persist in the doomed world you have created. The Reading Mania. The term reading mania, also known as reading fever, emerged in the 18th century to describe the widespread and intense passion for reading that gripped Europe. This period saw significant advancements in printing technology, making books more accessible to a broader audience. Lending libraries and book clubs became popular, allowing people from various social classes to engage with literature. This era also saw the rise of the novel as a dominant literary form, which played a crucial role in the reading mania. The surge in reading led to considerable anxiety among cultural commentators and moralists. Many believed that excessive reading, especially of novels, could lead to moral decay and societal disruption. This fear was part of a broader moral panic, a term used to describe widespread societal concern about a particular issue. Critics argued that novels encouraged idle fantasies and inappropriate behavior, particularly among the youth and women. One of the most famous cases associated with the reading mania is the reaction to Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther. The book, which depicts the tragic story of a young man's unrequited love, was linked to a wave of emulative behavior among readers, a phenomenon now known as the Werther effect. This effect suggested that the intense emotional experiences portrayed in the novel led some readers to mimic the protagonist's actions, illustrating the perceived dangers of novel reading. Societal responses to the reading mania varied widely. While some intellectuals and educators promoted reading as a means of personal and intellectual development, others called for restrictions on certain types of literature. Critics argued that novels promoted unrealistic expectations and distracted readers from productive activities. This debate highlighted the tension between the perceived benefits and dangers of widespread literary consumption. Historians propose that the reading mania was a reaction to the Enlightenment, a period that valued reason and individualism. Reading offered a means to explore new ideas and question traditional authorities. In my view, the so-called reading mania was likely just the 18th century version of kids these days, rather than an actual phenomenon. The Herbut Face. The Herbut Face is a mysterious stone face located deep in the Peruvian Amazon within the Amaracayeri Communal Reserve. This region, rich in biodiversity, is also home to the indigenous Herbut people. The Herbut people have inhabited the Madre de Dios region for several thousand years, and their legends and oral traditions play a crucial role in their cultural identity. The Herbut Face is central to these traditions. It's considered an amana, a sacred site representing their most distant ancestor, and a testament to their ancient habitation in the area. The Herbut Face is situated in an extremely remote part of the rainforest, making it difficult to access. Perched above a rapidly flowing Amazonian river, the Herbut Face is an imposing and realistic human visage carved into sedimentary rock, covered with moss. It features a sharp aquiline nose, prominent brow, and a pronounced lower jaw, resembling a powerful male figure, possibly a deity or tribal chieftain. There is significant debate about whether the face is a man-made structure or a natural geological formation. Some researchers argue that the face's precise lines and human-like features suggest it was carved by ancient peoples using rudimentary tools. Others believe it is a natural formation enhanced by the phenomenon of pareidolia, where the human brain recognizes familiar patterns in random objects. The region around the Herbut Face faces threats from illegal mining and logging, which have already caused extensive environmental damage. Despite receiving land titles in 1977, the Herbut people continue to struggle against industrial encroachment on their sacred lands. This is definitely a case where I feel the need to insert my own commentary. If that face was not created by human hands, it has to be one of the most compelling and bizarre cases of pareidolia I've ever seen in nature. The Chris Holohan Room. The Chris Holohan Room is one of the most famous Easter eggs in video game history, appearing in the SNES classic, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This secret room, named after a Nintendo Power Contest winner, has fascinated gamers and sparked numerous rumors and theories since its discovery. The Chris Holohan room came into existence through a Nintendo Power Magazine contest in 1990. The grand prize was having the winner's name featured in a future Nintendo game, which turned out to be A Link to the Past. The room itself is relatively simple in design. It features 45 blue rupees arranged in 5 groups of 9, a water-covered floor, and a telepathic tile that reads, "My name is Chris Holohan. This is my top secret room. Keep it between us, okay?" Accessing the Chris Holohan room isn't straightforward. It generally involves falling into a hole in the game's world under specific circumstances. The most reliable method involves using the Pegasus boots and bombs. From the sanctuary, players must navigate to a particular spot, drop a bomb to position Link precisely, and dash with the Pegasus boots into a hole. Honestly, reading the full steps to how to access this room online sounds like a totally ridiculous schoolyard rumor that actually happens to be true. There are several rumors and theories about the room's purpose and origin. One popular belief is that the room was designed as an error handler, a place for the game to send the player if it couldn't determine where Link should land after falling into a hole. Another aspect of the mystery is the removal of Chris Holohan's name in later versions of the game. In non-American versions and the Game Boy Advance port, the room still exists, but without the telepathic tile bearing Chris's name. This change has led to speculation about the reasons behind the name's removal, although no definitive explanation has been provided by Nintendo. Further, Chris Holohan himself is a mystery. Despite this being one of the most well-known video game urban legends and one of the most beloved series in history, the identity of Chris Holohan is still unknown. That is to say, no one has ever come forth and said, "Hey, it's me. I'm the Chris Holohan who won the contest," and provided definitive proof for it. London After Midnight. London After Midnight is a lost 1927 silent mystery horror film directed by Todd Browning and starring the legendary Lon Chaney. The film, originally titled The Hypnotist, was produced by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, better known as MGM, and became one of the most iconic pieces of lost media in film history. This film, notable for Chaney's dual role as both Inspector Edward Burke and the sinister Man in the Beaver Hat, encapsulates the essence of early horror cinema. London After Midnight was released during the peak of the silent film era, premiering on December 3, 1927. The film's plot revolves around a Scotland Yard detective, Edward Burke, who is called to investigate the mysterious demise of Roger Balfour. Initially ruled as a self-inflicted incident, the case reopens 5 years later, leading Burke to disguise himself as a vampire to unravel the truth. The film was a massive commercial success at the time. Despite mixed reviews from critics, it was praised for its atmospheric tension and Chaney's performance, particularly his grotesque makeup and eerie presence. Chaney's makeup was a significant part of the film's allure, featuring sharp teeth, dark circles around his eyes, and a haunting expression. The production used real bats, armadillos, and owls to enhance the eerie atmosphere of the haunted house scenes. This attention to detail contributed to the film's unsettling and supernatural vibe. The film's loss is attributed to the 1965 MGM Vault fire, which destroyed the last known copy. This incident has sparked numerous theories and myths about the existence of other copies. Some enthusiasts believe that a hidden copy might still be discovered, making it the holy grail of lost films. A reconstructed version of the film, created using still photographs and the original script, was aired by Turner Classic Movies in 2002. This reconstruction offered a glimpse into what the original might have been like, but the search for an authentic copy continues. London After Midnight has been linked to various urban legends and controversies. One notable incident involved a man claiming that Chaney's performance drove him to commit a crime, citing temporary insanity influenced by the film. Although this plea was rejected by the courts on the grounds that it was absurd, it added to the film's macabre mystique. The 1983 West Bank fainting epidemic. The 1983 West Bank fainting epidemic occurred between March and April of 1983. This mysterious event saw nearly 1,000 Palestinian schoolgirls and a smaller number of female Israeli soldiers experiencing a sudden onset of symptoms. These symptoms included fainting, dizziness, and headaches, amongst other symptoms. The epidemic's rapid spread and severe implications sparked a multitude of theories and accusations. The epidemic began on March 21, 1983, in Araba, a town in the West Bank. The initial incident involved a 17-year-old girl who experienced throat irritation and difficulty breathing shortly after entering her classroom. Her symptoms soon spread to her classmates and teachers, prompting public health authorities to investigate. Over the next few hours and days, the number of affected individuals skyrocketed, and similar outbreaks were reported in other parts of the West Bank, including Jenin and Hebron. These symptoms appeared in 3 distinct waves, primarily impacting young girls in schools, but also affecting some adult women and a few Israeli soldiers. The epidemic quickly became a hotbed for political accusations and conspiracy theories. Palestinian authorities accused Israel of deploying chemical agents to poison young Palestinian women, a claim vehemently denied by Israeli officials. Conversely, some Israeli authorities suggested that the Palestinians were staging the incidents to provoke international sympathy and political agitation. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States and other health organizations conducted thorough investigations to determine the cause of the symptoms. Environmental tests were performed to check for toxic gases, including hydrogen sulfide and other potential airborne toxins. Despite finding low concentrations of hydrogen sulfide near one school, no consistent environmental toxins were identified that could account for the widespread symptoms. In the end, most health experts concluded that the epidemic was largely psychosomatic, driven by mass hysteria. The tense political climate, combined with widespread media coverage of the symptoms and fears of poisoning, likely contributed to the psychological propagation of the epidemic. The event faded after schools in the West Bank were closed, bringing an end to the epidemic and leaving behind a complex legacy of accusations and unresolved questions. The disappearance of Cindy Anderson. On August 4, 1981, Cindy Anderson, a 20-year-old legal secretary from Toledo, Ohio, disappeared under mysterious circumstances. On the morning of her disappearance, Cindy went to work at the law office where she was employed, as usual. She was last seen at approximately 9:45 a.m., but by noon, her office was empty. When her employers arrived, they found the office lights on, the door locked from the inside, and Anderson's car in the parking lot. A romance novel she had been reading was left open to a scene where a woman is abducted, and the scent of nail polish lingered in the air, suggesting she had recently been in the office. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Anderson experienced recurring nightmares in which she was abducted by a stranger. These dreams were so vivid and troubling that she shared them with her family. Compounding the fear from these dreams, Anderson also received a series of harassing phone calls at work, which prompted her employers to install an emergency buzzer at her desk. Adding to the mystery was a message painted on a wall visible from her office. "I love you, Cindy by GW." Anderson did not know anyone with the initials GW. Although one man with those initials admitted to writing the messages, he claimed they were intended for another woman named Cindy. This bizarre graffiti, combined with the disturbing phone calls, contributed to the fear and tension Anderson experienced before her disappearance. Shortly after Anderson vanished, police received an anonymous phone call from a woman who whispered that Anderson was being held in the basement of a White House. The family associated with this White House owned two identical houses. Despite attempts to trace the call and search for the houses, no further information was obtained, and the caller never identified herself or called again. Several theories and suspects have emerged over the years, but none have led to a resolution. One theory involves Anderson's employers, specifically lawyer Richard Neller, who was later convicted for drug-related crimes. It is speculated that Anderson might have overheard incriminating conversations between Neller and a drug dealer, Jose Rodriguez. An informant later testified that Rodriguez confessed to Anderson's abduction to send a message, but this testimony was deemed unreliable, and no charges were filed. Another theory suggests that Anderson might have fallen victim to serial killers Anthony and Nathaniel Cook, who were active in the Toledo area during the 1980s. Although they were convicted for other crimes, they denied any involvement in Anderson's disappearance. Some theories propose that Anderson might have run away to start a new life. However, this theory is simply not credible given her close relationship with her family and the lack of any history of this sort of desire or behavior. Despite extensive investigations, Anderson's case remains unsolved. Her social security number has never been used, and her bank account remains untouched. The Toledo Police Department continues to hold out hope for new information, and if you have any information, I encourage you to reach out and report it to them. Disembarkment syndrome. This is a rare neurological condition that typically manifests after exposure to prolonged passive motion, such as sea travel, flights, or long car rides. The primary symptom is a persistent sensation of rocking, swaying, or bobbing, even when the person is stationary. The term has been used to describe the sensation of continuing to feel the movement after returning to solid ground. These symptoms were documented as far back as the early days of sea exploration. However, it wasn't until more recent times that the condition was recognized as a distinct medical syndrome. The formal recognition of this condition has helped in understanding and diagnosing it more accurately. Patients often describe the sensation as similar to being on a boat, with rocking and swaying motions. This can lead to difficulties with balance, coordination, and cognitive function, often referred to as brain fog. Other symptoms may include anxiety, depression, and fatigue. The most common trigger for disembarkment syndrome is sea travel, but it can also be induced by other forms of motion, such as air travel, car rides, and even virtual reality experiences. Some cases are spontaneous, arising without a clear motion-related trigger, possibly linked to stress, hormonal changes, or other neurological factors. The exact cause of this rare syndrome remains a mystery at present. One prevailing theory suggests that the condition results from a maladaptation of the brain's vestibular system, which controls balance and spatial orientation. When the motion stops, the brain fails to readjust to a stable environment, causing the persistent sensations of movement. Another hypothesis involves the vestibulo-ocular reflex, which helps stabilize vision by coordinating eye and head movements. Researchers have developed treatment protocols that aim to readapt the vestibulo-ocular reflex, showing significant success in alleviating symptoms for some patients. More recent studies have explored the potential of repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, a neuromodulation technique that uses magnetic fields to influence brain activity. Marian Stokes. Marian Stokes was a Philadelphia-based civil rights activist, librarian, and television producer whose unique obsession with archiving television news footage spanned over 3 decades. Born on November 25, 1929, she was deeply influenced by the political and social movements of her time. Stokes' most notable endeavor began in 1979 during the Iran hostage crisis. She became convinced that the way news was being reported could alter over time, potentially distorting facts. To combat this, she started recording television news around the clock. This effort quickly evolved into an all-consuming project that lasted until her death in 2012. Over 33 years, she amassed a staggering collection of around 71,000 VHS and Betamax tapes, capturing over 800,000 hours of news broadcasts, commercials, and even talk shows. Her recording setup included multiple televisions and recorders running simultaneously in her home. Initially, Stokes managed the recordings herself, swapping tapes every 6 to 8 hours. As her health declined, she hired assistants to help maintain the rigorous schedule. Her commitment to this archival project required significant personal sacrifices and led her to purchase multiple storage units and even several apartments. By the end of her life, she owned 12 properties, all of which were dedicated to the preservation of lost media. Stokes also recognized the importance of computing power in her work and was an early investor in Apple. I suspect that her early investments in Apple may have been able to fund a significant portion of her archiving work, as well as the properties needed to store the physical media. Her passion for technology was indicative of her forward-thinking mindset and dedication to preserving contemporary history through any means available. Marian Stokes' life and work are surrounded by several mysteries. One of the biggest mysteries is what truly drove Marian Stokes to start and continue her extensive archiving project. While the Iran hostage crisis is often cited as a triggering event, the depth of her commitment suggests deeper motivations. Some speculate that she had a profound belief in the importance of preserving unaltered media for future generations to access. She perhaps foresaw a time when historical records might be lost or altered. Another mystery involves exactly how she funded her project. Stokes was an early investor in Apple, which likely provided her with significant financial resources. However, the exact details of her investments and how she managed to sustain such a costly and labor-intensive endeavor over 3 decades are not fully known. Her ability to maintain this project without external funding or support raises questions about her financial management. The full extent of the unseen footage remains one of the greatest mysteries. Given that her collection spans major historical events, cultural shifts, and everyday news, researchers believe there could be invaluable footage that has yet to be discovered. The potential for uncovering lost broadcasts or rare news segments continues to be a point of fascination for historians and archivists. After Marian's death, her son recognized the historical value of her collection and partnered with the Internet Archive to digitize and make the tapes accessible to the public. The digitization process is an ongoing effort due to the sheer volume of material and the challenges associated with preserving and converting old videotapes. Personally, I'm looking forward to the digitization process being completed so I can watch the inevitable Blame It on Jorge video about it. The Uray. Uray, often translated as faint spirits, are a significant part of Japanese folklore and belief. These ghostly apparitions are comparable to Western ghosts, but come with their own unique traits and stories. The concept of Uray originates from ancient Japanese beliefs that everyone has a spirit or soul. Upon death, the soul leaves the body and enters a form of purgatory. If the proper funeral rites are not performed, or if the person died under traumatic circumstances, the soul may transform into a Uray and return to the physical world. Common characteristics of Uray include long, disheveled hair, white burial kimono, and a lack of feet, giving them a floating appearance. They are often depicted with lifeless hands that dangle from their wrists, and are accompanied by eerie, floating flames called hitodama. Uray are generally categorized based on their reasons for haunting, with the most common and feared being the Onryo. These spirits seek vengeance for some wrongs they had to endure during life, and are the most likely to engage in violent sorts of activities. These spirits often take part in quote-unquote poltergeist-like activity, where they influence the world around them in a very real and unwelcome way. Not all spirits are considered malevolent, and some are even welcomed. For instance, spirits of children are considered mischievous, but if they are treated well, they will bring good fortune to a household and eventually depart. Several Uray stories have stood the test of time and remain popular in Japanese culture. However, the most popular is likely Oiwa from the story Yotsuya Kaidan, which depicts an extremely destructive Onryo type of ghost. Oiwa was betrayed and poisoned by her husband, leading to her disfigurement and death. Her disturbing and disfigured spirit relentlessly haunts her husband until he loses touch with reality and dies. Further adding to the popularity of this ghost story is the fact that it is allegedly based upon a true story of a woman in the 17th century. Notably, this story has been depicted on stage and in film numerous times over the last few centuries, and unsurprisingly, there are superstitions associated with adapting the tale. The cast and crew of any such production typically visit Oiwa's grave prior to the production and make offerings to her spirit in an attempt to placate this angry ghost. If offerings are not made in a proper way, it is said that the individuals involved in the production may incur the wrath of Oiwa. The Beast of Bladenboro. The Beast of Bladenboro is a creature that sparked fear in the small town of Bladenboro, North Carolina, due to its mysterious and violent attacks on local animals. The first recorded incident occurred on December 29, 1953, when a woman in Clarkton, a town near Bladenboro, heard her neighbor's dogs barking and whimpering. Upon investigating, she saw a large, dark creature with glowing red eyes. This sighting marked the beginning of a series of brutal attacks on livestock and pets in the area. Over the following days, more dogs were found dead, their bodies reportedly crushed and drained of blood. The panic in Bladenboro escalated quickly due to the horrific nature of these attacks. Local police received numerous reports of a large, cat-like creature. Descriptions varied, but many witnesses claimed the beast was about 5 feet long, had a sleek black coat, and glowing red eyes. As fear spread, the town organized hunting parties. On January 7, 1954, around 1,000 people, including armed hunters from various states, gathered to track down the beast. Despite the large number of hunters, no conclusive evidence was found initially. However, on January 13th, a local farmer caught a large bobcat in a steel trap, which was subsequently killed and presented as the Beast of Bladenboro by the town's mayor. The true identity of the Beast of Bladenboro remains a subject of speculation. Some believe the sightings were cases of mistaken identity, possibly involving large dogs, bobcats, or other native wildlife. The glowing red eyes could be attributed to the reflection of light at night. Another theory suggests that the creature could have been an escaped exotic pet, such as a panther or another large feline. This idea is supported by the descriptions of the beast's physical appearance and behavior. Some cryptozoologists argue that the Beast of Bladenboro might be a cryptid, a creature whose existence is not recognized by conventional science. They point to cryptids like the Wampus cat, or the phenomenon of the alien big cat in favor of this position. Critics often point to the possibility of mass hysteria and hoaxes perpetuating the legend. The intense media coverage and the influx of hunters might have contributed to a collective panic that exaggerated the incidents. The legend of the Beast of Bladenboro has left a lasting impact on the town. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence, the story has been passed down through generations, becoming a part of local folklore. The town of Bladenboro even hosts an annual event called Beast Fest to commemorate the legend, featuring food stalls, entertainment, and family-friendly activities. Also, I have to mention it, but I do like how cryptids that once allegedly terrorized regions often go on to become beloved mascots in the region. This is a suggestion by Discord community member Kaiba. Check out the Spotify and Apple Music link in the description and follow my channel for relaxing lo-fi beats. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Director Delta, Jordan All, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.